my wedding anniversary is tomorrow. 4 years married to my husband, Scott. He is my best friend, my partner in crime. He's legally required to warm my feet up at night. So happy anniversary, babe. But with my anniversary coming up tomorrow, it has me thinking a lot about, just love in general, but in relationship wellness. So kind of a twofold to that in how to keep your relationship wellness, keep your relationship health going, but also how you guys can encourage and boost one another in your own journeys towards health and wellness. So one thing I feel is a pretty common knowledge thing now, but in case you haven't heard of it, is the 5 love languages. So the 5 love languages are the different ways in which people show love and affection. And everyone kind of tends to have a dominant love language that they're more fluent in. And so those 5 love languages are gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch. Now my husband's tends to be gifts and acts of service. I would say mine is probably quality time and physical touch because, I'm the massage lady. So there are different ways with these different 5 love languages that you can use them to either support one another's health or give an excuse against the health. So an example, my husband's love language is gifts, right? And so, yes, do I love Reese's peanut butter cups? Absolutely. Is it sweet when my husband thinks of me when he's at the store and grabs me a Reese's peanut butter cup? Absolutely. Is it beneficial to my health and wellness for my husband to bring me a Reese's peanut butter cup once or twice a week? It's not going to kill me. But there's other options, right? And so that's a conversation that we've had over time. And so now when he feels that he wants to bring home a treat and in speaking his love language of gifts, he'll grab something more like a gluten-free treat or some dairy-free ice cream, something like that. So thinking about the ways in which you show your love and affection to your significant other and looking at those ways in whether or not they're helping to support their health and wellness. Now, again, life is all about balance, right? So if you're bringing your loved one a Reese's peanut butter cup once in a while, more power to you. That's awesome. But there's an opportunity there that you can kind of hold up a mirror, right? There has to be some conversation ahead of time. So if my husband just all of a sudden started bringing me home salads, I love salads. Me personally, I would dig that, right? But if you in your own mind think, oh, maybe my partner needs to eat healthier, and you just start bringing salads, that can be misinterpreted, right? So bringing it into the conversation, talking with your partner about what your personal goals are for your health and wellness and what their goals are for theirs, and finding ways in which you guys can support one another's journey. Like I said, for my husband, it was replacing the Reese's peanut butter cups with a dairy-free ice cream. Still a treat, still sweet, but a little bit more in line with the goals that I have. So holding up a mirror is a term that I like to use a lot. So it's kind of a nice way of saying holding each other accountable, right? So, and that doesn't mean holding one another accountable. So I'm not going to hold my husband accountable to my goals and my expectations for his health and wellness. I'm going to hold him accountable for his own goals and his own expectations. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't still encourage him and make information available to him when I find it. But the accountability really has to be with their own journey. And so being that kind of accountability partner and being able to hold up a mirror and say, hey, we sat down, we talked about it, you expressed what your goals and your where you wanted your journey to go. Do you think that what you're doing right now is falling in line with that? And kind of giving them an opportunity to check in with themselves. So less of a calling them out and more of just again, a gentle way of holding up a mirror and making sure that you are doing your part as a partner to encourage them to take care of themselves and to fall in line with their own goals that they've already set forth for themselves. So the whole idea here is that you're taking 2 lives and you're merging them together. And yes, you're independent, separate beings, but that your life together can be even better and even more magnified and enhanced by what you bring to each other's lives. So You're each living your own lives, or you're each living your best lives separately, but also living your best lives together as well. Now, there's an interesting thing that comes up when you start to talk about priorities in relationships. And I think that a lot of it is debatable, and I'm curious to see and to hear what your guys' opinions are on these things. So if I touch a red button here, let me know. But let's open up a conversation about it, right? So we tend to think a lot about, okay, relationships are 50-50. Maybe they should be 100-100, right? So that's a popular one to talk about. But one thing that my husband and I have learned a lot over the years, we've been married for 4 years, but we've been together almost 9 years. And one thing that we've learned is that while it is commonly acceptable in our society to say that your significant other, your husband, your wife, your domestic partner is your number one in your life, your number one priority, and you live and breathe and eat for them, right? But I want to challenge that perspective a little bit to say, and my husband will agree with this, again, this is a conversation that we've had over, almost a decade now, is that your spouse cannot be your number one. You can only love, respect, care, nurture someone as deeply as you do those things for yourself. And so you yourself have to be your number one so that you can show up not only for yourself, but for your partner and for your relationship, right? So being able to put your own self-care, your own stress management, your own health, your own wellness first, so that you can then pour into your partner and help them, and vice versa. And if you're both putting yourselves first, then inevitably your relationship is going to flourish, right? Because you have two healthy, happy, whole beings joining together. Now, the second part is an idea that a friend introduced me to, and because we don't have children of our own yet, is not something that I have been able to stretch out into and explore a lot. But it's even not having kids myself, when she brought this up, and she does have a little one, when she brought this up, it brought up kind of a red flag, like, well, what do you mean? So the idea is that your relationship with yourself comes first, right? And second in that family lineup is your relationship with your spouse should come ahead of your relationship with your children. Now, I know don't come after me with pitchforks again, this is purely theoretical, an idea that a friend introduced me to. And the reason being, and what she told me, is that if your relationship with your spouse, whether it be with your children's biological parent or with a step parent, that your relationship with them, with your spouse, is modeling relationships for your children in the future, right? And further than that, that if your relationship is strong, then you're going to work better as a team to raise your children. So there's a lot of, again, that raised red flags for me, because I'm thinking, well, kids, obviously they have to come if not number one ahead of yourself, number two behind yourself and ahead of your spouse. But it's just an idea to think about, and maybe not even necessarily putting numbers to that priority list, but just kind of thinking about that idea of how important the strength in your relationship with your spouse, that one-on-one relationship, is to your family unit relationship as a whole. So just something to bring to your guys' mind. Now, I'm going to get really, really sappy here because it's my anniversary weekend, and I want to share with you, let me get this over so I can click this link. I want to share with you a poem that I wrote. I think I wrote this right before we got married, actually. And it kind of speaks to those. It kind of speaks to that that idea of priorities in relationships and putting yourself first above yourself. Time blocking is awesome, Deanna. That's a great one to bring up. Date nights are a must. So this is a poem that I wrote right before my husband and I got married, so about 4 years ago. And it speaks to the idea of putting yourself first so that you can have a strong relationship. So I'm going to get sappy, put on my poetry face for a minute. Bear with me. 50 years from now, a moment captured by a camera and caged by a frame may paint our union to be tame, romantic, the stuff of stories, the perfect couple. But we will remember its roughly hewn beginnings, the splinters, sweat, tears, crazed laughter shared. We alone will know that the building of this fairy tale was no easy feat, and yet no less magical for its lack of ease. We will know that partnership is a choice made every day to deeply love two flawed people, your partner and yourself. And to the twinkling eyes that will one day inquire, we will paint a true picture of how to give yourself fully and authentically to another, and yet retain custody of your own soul. For while we are building heirlooms, we are also building truth. To help a new generation understand that these two sets of clasped hands, someday wrinkled and cloaked in muted tones of flesh, were once plumped by youth and bore the grazed knuckles of hard lessons learned, and that in the infancy of those clasped hands was born the understanding that to fully love and respect another, you must fully love and respect yourself first. For the only thing greater than a self-sufficient, wildly contented life is sharing that life with your best friend. So that's for my husband for our anniversary, revisiting an old poem, but also for you guys to kind of put into perspective again that I'm going to keep saying it over and over. Your self-care and your self-management have to be your top priority. Regardless of what relationships come after the relationship with yourself, they will all flourish if the relationship with yourself is strong and healthy.